Okay, so here's the thing about the Pitt Season 2 that nobody is really talking about. It's not just a good show. It's a good show that is doing something structurally insane. And if you're not paying close attention to why it works the way it works, you're missing half of what makes it brilliant. I've gone back and watched every episode of Season 2 at least twice now, and I've ranked them not by which ones had the most action, not by which ones had the flashiest moments, but by something a lot harder to pin down: emotional weight. How much did this episode sit with me after I turn off the screen? How much did it change the way I understood these characters? That's the metric. That's the whole game. So strap in, because we're going deep. Let's start with the big picture, because you cannot rank Season 2 episodes without understanding what Season 2 is actually trying to do differently from Season 1. Season 1 of The Pit was built around a single, catastrophic event. One day, one mass casualty incident, one enormous storm that everyone had to survive together. And that structure was genius for what it was. It gave the show this relentless, propulsive energy. Every single minute felt like it was building towards something. The pressure came from outside. The ER was being attacked by circumstances, and the characters had to band together to fight back. Season 2 made a choice that is honestly braver and also riskier. Instead of one big external event, it went internal. The pressure in Season 2 doesn't come from a single catastrophe. It comes from the accumulation of everything. It's the weight of months of doing this job, of seeing what these people see, of carrying what they carry, and slowly, quietly, starting to crack. Season 2 is about what happens after the disaster. What happens when there's no single enemy to fight, just the endless grind of showing up every day and the toll that takes. That shift changes everything about how you experience each episode. Because in Season 1, a quieter episode felt like a breather before the next punch. In Season 2, a quieter episode is often the scariest one, because the thing creeping up on these characters isn't the next emergency. It's themselves. That I want to spend a minute on this idea, because I think it's the heart of why Season 2 is so divisive among fans. Some people felt like the season was slower, that not enough happened. And I get that. I genuinely get it. When you're conditioned by a first season that never let you breathe, a second season that operates on a slower boil can feel like a letdown. But here's what I think those people are missing. The tension in Season 2 isn't horizontal, it's vertical. It's not spreading across a single cataclysmic day. It's deepening inside each character over weeks and months. And when it finally releases, it doesn't release in an explosion. It releases in a panic attack, in a quiet breakdown in a supply closet, in someone walking off a shift and not coming back. Those moments don't look dramatic on the outside, but they hit like a freight train if you've been watching these people carefully. Season 2 is asking a question that Season 1 didn't have time to ask. What does this job do to a person long term? And the answer it gives is uncomfortable and honest and deeply human. This isn't a show about heroes saving lives anymore. It's a show about people trying to keep themselves together long enough to keep saving lives. And that distinction matters. Now let's get into the characters, because honestly, the ranking lives or dies based on how well each episode uses these people. Dr. Robby is the soul of this show. He was in Season 1, and he's even more central in Season 2, but in a way that's quietly devastating. Because in Season 1, Robby was the competent anchor, the one who held things together when everything was falling apart. And in Season 2, the show asks, what happens to the anchor when it starts to rust? The episodes where Robby is the focal point are some of the strongest of the season. Not because he's doing anything heroic, but because the show is showing us the cost of heroism that nobody ever talks about. There's a stretch of episodes in the middle of the season where Robby is clearly not okay, and the show never telegraphs it. He doesn't monologue about his feelings. He doesn't have a dramatic scene where he breaks down in front of his colleagues. He just starts making slightly different decisions. He pauses a half-second longer before speaking. He looks at patients in a way that's a little too long. And if you're watching closely, you can see him mentally comparing every person who comes through that door to people he couldn't save. The panic attack episode, and I don't want to overspoil it, but you know the one, is the kind of scene that makes you put your phone down. Not because it's loud, Because it's so quiet. Because Robby has been holding it together for so long, and you've been watching him hold it together. And when it finally gives way, it gives way in private, in a moment where no one else can see him. Because even when he's falling apart, he's still trying to protect everyone around him from knowing that he's falling apart. That's the character. That's season 2 in one scene. If Robby is the soul of the show, Dr. Mohan is the conscience. And season 2 uses her in a way that I think is genuinely underappreciated. Mohan's arc in season 2 is about the space between what you know is right and what you're allowed to do. She's sharp, she's passionate, she gives everything to her patients, and she keeps running into walls. Institutional walls, bureaucratic walls, the walls that exist inside medicine that nobody makes a TV show about because they're not as cinematic as a Code Blue. But Mohan keeps slamming into them anyway, and what the show captures beautifully is how that wears on a person who genuinely believes in the work. The best Mohan episodes in season 2 are the ones where the conflict isn't external. It's not a difficult patient or a complicated diagnosis. It's her trying to figure out how to keep believing in a system that keeps failing the people she's trying to help. There's a patient storyline mid-season that Mohan is at the center of, and the resolution, or lack of resolution, is so truthful that it almost feels unfair. Because it doesn't wrap up neatly. Because in real emergency medicine, things often don't wrap up neatly. And Mohan is left holding the emotional weight of that. And the camera just sits with her in it. And you feel the whole season's themes crystallize in about 45 seconds. Santos might be the most interesting character study of season 2, and I say that knowing full well that some people find her storyline the most frustrating. Here's my take. Santos is frustrating on purpose. She's supposed to be, because Santos is the show's argument that burnout doesn't always look like exhaustion. Sometimes it looks like overconfidence. Sometimes it looks like someone who has stopped asking for help because they've convinced themselves they don't need it. Santos makes decisions in season 2 that are hard to watch. And in the weaker episodes, the ones lower in my ranking, those decisions feel like the show manufacturing drama. But in the stronger episodes, those decisions feel like an inevitable consequence of who Santos is and what she's been through. The difference is in the writing and in how much breathing room the episode gives her to exist as a full person rather than just a plot engine. The System Shut Down episode, which is one of the season's absolute peaks, puts Santos in an impossible position, and what the show does with her in that context is maybe the most nuanced character work of the entire season. Because she doesn't rise to the occasion in the way a lesser show would make her rise to it. She rises to it in a messy, imperfect, very human way. And it's better for that Al-Hashimi deserves more love than she gets in the fandom. And season 2 is where you really start to see why she was introduced in the first place. On the surface, Al-Hashimi is the newcomer, the one who doesn't know the rhythms of this place yet. But the show uses her as a mirror. She's the audience surrogate in a way, the person who walks into this environment and has to make sense of it in real time. And what makes her so compelling in season 2 is that she stops just observing and starts feeling. She goes from being someone who's watching the dysfunction to someone who's being shaped by it. Her best episode of the season, I won't name it to avoid spoiling the structure, but you'll know it when you get there, is the one where she has to make a call that no amount of medical school prepared her for. And the episode earns that moment because it's been building it patiently, quietly, for several hours of television. When it lands not because of what happens clinically, but because of what you understand it means for who she is becoming. That's the whole show in miniature. It's never really about medicine. It's always about people. I want to step back from individual characters for a second and talk about the thematic layer of season 2, because I think it's what elevates this show from very good prestige drama to something genuinely important. Season 2 of The Pitt is one of the most honest depictions of healthcare worker mental health that I have ever seen on television. And I don't say that as a compliment to throw at it. I say it as an observation about what the show is doing with real, documented, ongoing crisis material. The burnout rate among emergency medicine physicians, nurses, and staff in the real world is staggering. The mental health impact of working in an emergency room is real and well documented and almost never depicted with any kind of nuance on screen. The Pitt Season 2 doesn't do a very special episode about mental health. It doesn't have a character go to therapy and learn a lesson and be better. It distributes the weight across every episode, every character, every small moment where someone's face flickers and you catch a glimpse of how much they're carrying. The show understands that mental health in high-stress professions isn't a discrete event you can point to. It's the atmosphere. It's the air these people breathe every day. And Season 2 has figured out how to make that atmospheric in the literal sense. It seeps into every scene, every conversation, every silence. Okay, let's get into the actual ranking. And I want to start at the bottom, because I think it's important to explain why even the weaker episodes of Season 2 are still doing essential work. The episodes I'd place in the bottom third of my ranking are the ones that feel most transitional. They're the connective tissue of the season, necessary structurally, but lighter on the kind of moments that make you stop and rewind. These episodes tend to focus more on plot mechanics than character interiority. They're doing the job of moving pieces around the board, setting up conditions for later payoffs. And when the season is operating at its best, those payoffs justify everything. But in the moment, these episodes can feel like the show is idling. What saves them, what keeps them out of bad territory, is the consistency of performance. The cast of The Pitt is so locked into who these people are by Season 2 that even in a functionally lower-stakes episode, you're watching real people exist in a real place. The texture is always there, and sometimes the texture is the whole point. The important thing I want to say about ranking TV episodes is this: a weaker episode in a great season is still a chapter in a great book. You don't skip chapters. You trust the author. And Season 2 of The Pitt has earned that trust. The middle tier of my ranking is where Season 2 starts to really find its voice. These are the episodes where the slow burn approach starts to pay off visibly, where you can feel the cumulative weight of everything that's come before starting to press down. There's a set of 3 consecutive episodes at around the midpoint of the season that I'd rank in this tier, and they work as a unit more than they work individually. Taken separately, each one is very good. Taken together, they're extraordinary because they're tracking 3 different characters through the same window of time, and you start to see how the same institutional pressure is manifesting differently in each of them. One character is withdrawing. One is overcorrecting into hyperactivity. One is becoming brittle in ways they don't even notice yet. And the show never tells you any of this. It shows you through behavior, through word choice, through the way people move in space. This is sophisticated filmmaking in a television context, and these mid-tier episodes deserve recognition for the craft, even if they lack the singular knockout moments of the top tier. Now, we're at the top, and the top tier of Season 2 is legitimately some of the best television in recent memory. The System Shutdown episode sits near the pinnacle for me. The premise is deceptively simple. A technical failure takes down critical systems in the ER during a busy shift. But the episode isn't about the technical failure. It's about what happens to a group of people who have been leaning on systems and protocols to manage their own anxiety when those systems suddenly disappear. It strips everything back to human instinct and human decision-making. And what it reveals about each character in that stripped-back state is devastating and illuminating and perfectly calibrated. This is the episode where Santos becomes fully three-dimensional. This is the episode where Robby's competence and his trauma become genuinely inseparable. It's an all-timer. The Panic Attack episode is my personal number 1, and I suspect it's going to be controversial, because it's not a plot-heavy episode. Things happen, but not dramatically. What happens is that one of our main characters has a full panic attack, alone, in a hospital, surrounded by people, and the episode holds that experience with an intimacy and an accuracy and a refusal to dramatize it for spectacle that is almost shocking in how respectful it is. This is what a panic attack actually feels like. This is what it looks like when someone has been holding on for too long and the body just decides it's done holding. And the show treats it not as a plot point, but as a human moment that demands to be witnessed without judgment. The patient storyline that runs through the final episodes, which I won't detail too specifically, brings together every theme the season has been developing. Burnout, identity, The gap between why you enter medicine and what the job has made you. And it lands with a weight that is proportionate to the patience the season has shown in building toward it. Here's what I keep coming back to when I think about Season 2 of The Pitt. This is a show that is not interested in making you feel good. It is interested in making you feel true. And those are not the same thing, and the difference between them is where great television lives. The ranking I've laid out is based on emotional impact because I genuinely believe that is the only honest metric for this particular show. A technically eventful episode that doesn't make me feel anything is worth less than a quiet episode that makes me think about someone I know who works in healthcare and whether they're okay. And Season 2 made me do that. Multiple times. The Pitt is doing something that I think gets more difficult every season for a show of this nature. It's staying committed to its own integrity. It is not chasing spectacle. It is not manufacturing drama. It is sitting inside the lives of these people and letting the drama arise from the truth of who they are and what they face. And Season 2 deepened that commitment in ways I didn't entirely expect and am still processing. If Season 1 asked, "Can you survive this day?" Season 2 is asking something harder. It's asking, after enough of these days, who are you? And the answer it's building toward, character by character, episode by episode, is complicated and uncomfortable and deeply worth your time. That's what I've got. Let me know in the comments where you'd put these episodes. I am absolutely ready to have my rankings challenge because this is exactly the kind of show that deserves that conversation. If you're new here, subscribe because we do this kind of deep dive analysis every week, and The Pitt is going to be a permanent fixture on this channel for as long as it keeps being this good. See you in the next one.